So Kwame Brown absolutely destroys LeBron James exactly for what I've been saying. No effort and also no defense.
Kwame Brown just went all the way in on LeBron James, and he did not hold anything back. No careful wording, no trying to stay politically correct for TV cameras, just pure frustration spilling out from a former NBA player who sounded completely fed up with what he keeps seeing from LeBron in big playoff moments. According to Kwame, this is not even about talent anymore. Nobody is denying LeBron's greatness or what he has done in the league. The issue is what keeps happening during these huge games, especially late in the fourth quarter when pressure starts rising and everybody is watching closely. Kwame basically said the same thing many fans have been screaming online for years, that LeBron spends way too much time arguing with referees, falling behind on defense, and slowing the entire energy of the team when things start getting tough. And honestly, the timing made the whole rant hit even harder. After that playoff performance against OKC, the criticism exploded everywhere. Social media went crazy, sports shows started debating it instantly, and Kwame stepped right into the middle of the fire without caring who got upset. He straight up called out the body language, the complaining, and the lack of urgency in key stretches of the game. Real basketball fans immediately started arguing over one question. Was Kwame finally saying what everyone else in the basketball world has been scared to say out loud, or was he completely disrespecting one of the greatest players the league has ever seen? Because either way, the reaction was massive. What makes Kwame different from most former NBA players is that he does not seem interested in protecting relationships. He is not trying to keep a network job safe. He is not trying to stay cool with superstar players. He does not sound worried about upsetting agents, sponsors, or executives. That freedom gives his words a completely different energy compared to the usual safe basketball talk people hear every day. After Game 3 against the Thunder, Kwame went directly at LeBron's performance and backed it up with specifics. The stats were rough, and that made the criticism even louder. LeBron finished the night shooting 7 for 19 from the field, which comes out to just 36.8% shooting. From three-point range, he hit 3 of 9. He grabbed 6 rebounds total, all defensive boards, with 0 offensive rebounds. For a player carrying superstar expectations and superstar money, fans expected way more production in a playoff game that important. Then people started breaking down the game quarter by quarter, and that is where the conversation really started getting uncomfortable. 4 points in the first quarter, 6 in the second, 4 in the third while shooting 1 for 4, then another 4 points in the fourth quarter. Fans were looking at the stat sheet thinking, wait a minute, this is supposed to be the player controlling the entire game in crunch time? Kwame especially focused on the effort level during certain possessions. He kept bringing up the moments where LeBron stayed behind arguing calls while the Lakers had to scramble defensively without him. That criticism has followed LeBron for years, but hearing another former NBA player hammer the point over and over made the conversation feel way more serious this time. But the part that really got people heated was when Kwame started talking about the contract. He basically said forget the legacy debates for a second. Forget comparing championships, records, and career totals. Focus on the current reality.
So Kwame Brown, after Game 3, goes on his podcast and completely destroys LeBron James for lack of effort, complaining to the referees, not going back on defense, which this is a tactic used by many players, and this has been used by LeBron James so many times. If he goes in for a basket, he thinks he gets fouled or he wants to make it look like he gets fouled. He then stays and complains to the referee, which in eyes of the fans gives him an excuse not to go back on defense. Because, oh, look, he got fouled, he's upset, that's why he's not back on defense. That's what casual fans will think, and that's what they will just take it as.
LeBron is making around $50 million this season, and with that type of salary comes massive expectations every single night, especially in the playoffs. That is why this debate exploded so fast online, because once money enters the conversation, fans stop talking emotionally and start looking at results. And after that performance, a lot of people suddenly started asking whether the Lakers are truly getting the version of LeBron they still expect when the pressure gets highest. A $50 million superstar is supposed to take over games when everything gets tight. That is the expectation that comes with the contract, the fame, the pressure, and the constant GOAT conversations. Fans are not paying attention in those moments to see who had the best podcast quote or who posted the best stats 3 months ago. They want to know one thing: who is going to close the game when the season is on the line? That was the center of Kwame Brown's entire rant about LeBron James, and honestly, it hit a nerve because a lot of fans were already thinking the same thing after Game 3. Kwame basically said, the Lakers are not paying LeBron James around $50 million a season to score 4 points in the fourth quarter, while the offense completely stalls out late in the game. That is not what a franchise player is supposed to look like when everything gets serious. A superstar is supposed to calm the chaos, not disappear while the team scrambles for answers. And this is where the Luka Doncic injury became a huge part of the conversation. With Luka unavailable, the pressure shifted heavily onto LeBron to carry the offense late. Instead, there were stretches where Austin Reeves looked like the only Laker capable of creating anything meaningful offensively. Now, to be fair, Austin Reeves has earned respect around the league. Nobody is denying that. He has turned himself into a legit NBA player and a valuable piece for the Lakers. But Kwame's point was brutal and simple. Reeves was a second-round pick who fought his way into the league. The Lakers are not paying him superstar money to carry playoff possessions in crunch time. They are paying LeBron James to handle that responsibility. Yet during key moments of that game, Reeves looked more aggressive, more involved, and honestly more willing to attack than the player making superstar money.
A rough start, but an offensive rebound by Ayton. James will fake the three, get fouled, and put it up. Off the front iron, no. And Ed Malloy going to say it was before the shooting motion. And
that is the part that made fans uncomfortable watching the collapse unfold in real time. Then Kwame shifted into another criticism that has followed LeBron for years, and this is where the rant started getting extremely specific. He talked about the constant arguing with referees after missed calls and how it directly hurts the Lakers defensively. According to Kwame, the sequence keeps happening over and over again. LeBron drives to the rim, takes contact, misses the shot, then immediately turns toward the official instead of sprinting back on defense. Hands go up, head shakes, long stare at the referee, slow walk back up the court while the other team is already attacking the Lakers' defense before it can reset. Kwame did not believe those moments were accidental frustration. He called it a calculated rest tactic. And honestly, once he said it, a lot of fans suddenly started replaying those possessions differently in their heads. Because it is true that the Lakers often end up defending 4-on-5 during those moments, while LeBron is still talking to the official near the baseline. Kwame's argument was that the complaint becomes a shield. On television, casual viewers focus on whether the foul should have been called. Meanwhile, the real damage is happening on the other end while the defense is short a player during transition. That is the part hardcore fans notice immediately.
Hartenstein, and he just lost the ball. Boy, McCain was wide open on the opposite side, and they're saying that was off the Laker.
The scary thing is how often it seems to happen during losses. If you go back and watch Lakers playoff games carefully, there are multiple possessions where the opponent gets easy transition offense, while LeBron is still reacting to the missed whistle instead of getting back into the play. Over the course of an entire game, those possessions start adding up fast. Kwame basically argued that this is what happens when an older superstar is trying to preserve energy deep into the postseason. Instead of attacking every possession at full speed like earlier in his career, LeBron now picks spots carefully and manages his energy in real time during games. Then Kwame brought up another stat that made the conversation even more awkward: offensive rebounds. For someone built like LeBron, fans expect at least some physical dominance on the glass. He is around 6'9", incredibly strong, and one of the most physically gifted players the league has ever seen. Earlier in his playoff career, he averaged around 1.5 offensive rebounds per game, which was solid for a player handling the ball as much as he does. But this postseason, that number has fallen to just 0.4 offensive rebounds per game. That statistic immediately stood out because offensive rebounding is mostly about effort, energy, and willingness to battle through contact repeatedly. It requires second jumps, fighting for inside position, crashing into bodies, and staying active after missed shots. Those are exhausting plays, especially for a veteran player managing heavy minutes. Kwame connected all of it together into one larger point: the slower transition defense, the reduced rebounding, the long complaints to referees, the fourth quarter scoring drop-offs. He believes all of those things are symptoms of the exact same reality. LeBron's body is not capable of sustaining the same non-stop pressure it once did for an entire playoff game, so adjustments are happening inside the flow of games to compensate for that. And honestly, that is what made this rant explode online. Because for the first time in a while, a former NBA player was not just criticizing LeBron emotionally. Kwame was tying specific behaviors directly to the reality of aging, fatigue, and playoff wear and tear. That does not erase LeBron's greatness. It does not erase championships, records, or historic accomplishments. But it does force fans to confront a harder question that many people have been avoiding. At what point does managing energy stop looking strategic and start looking like a weakness teams can exploit in big playoff moments?
You got almost 60 points that could happen in turnovers, but you blaming the damn referee. That's a shame. LeBron James got 2 rebounds and he blaming the ref. That means you ain't get in there and do nothing. Y'all whole team plus minus was terrible. This is a horrible teammate. If every time you feel that you get fouled, you think leaving us 4 on 5 for you to sit there and cry to the referees is the right thing to do, I just think you wasting everybody's time. That's him trying to get rest. He already stand there when it's time to play defense. He's doing this, wiping shit. So if you got to do that and cry to the refs, how many possessions are they getting extra possessions because LeBron is doing this? You can't. What's the point of you having 16 points the first half and 1 or 2 points in the fourth quarter, 4 points in the fourth quarter?
The deeper Kwame Brown got into this rant, the harder it became for people to brush it off as just another emotional anti-LeBron take. Because once the conversation moved past highlights and reputation, the numbers started painting a pretty rough picture for the Lakers as a whole. One of the biggest points Kwame brought up was rebounding, specifically offensive rebounding, which is basically one of the clearest effort stats in basketball. Right now, the Lakers rank 13th in offensive rebounds this postseason. 13th! And here is the crazy part. Every playoff team ranked below them in offensive rebounding is already sitting at home. The Hawks are out, the Sixers are out, the Nuggets are out. Those teams are done, while the Lakers are somehow still hanging around despite getting badly outworked on the glass night after night. The overall rebounding numbers are not much better either. The Lakers are averaging just 39.7 total rebounds per game during the postseason, which also places them near the bottom compared to other playoff teams. For a roster with veteran size and experience, that is not the kind of physical presence fans expected heading into a deep playoff run. And once again, people immediately looked back at LeBron's individual numbers. The team's highest paid player is averaging just 0.4 offensive rebounds per game. That stat became a huge talking point because fans expect a player with LeBron's size, strength, and basketball IQ to impact the glass more consistently, especially during playoff basketball where every extra possession matters. Then Kwame shifted the conversation toward JJ Redick, and honestly, that opened another massive debate online. Why is a 41-year-old superstar playing nearly 37 minutes a game in a playoff series? Kwame basically questioned whether the Lakers are managing LeBron correctly at this stage of his career, because historically, legendary coaches understood that aging superstars needed strategic rest to stay dominant late in games. Phil Jackson understood this with Michael Jordan. He understood it with Kobe Bryant, too. The idea was simple. Preserve the legs early, so the superstar still has enough energy to completely control the fourth quarter when the pressure becomes overwhelming. That balance matters more as players get older. Heavy playoff minutes wear down the body fast, especially when the player is also carrying major offensive responsibility. If the legs go, the jumper starts falling short, defensive reactions slow down, transition effort fades, and decision-making becomes less sharp. Kwame's argument was basically that the Lakers are pushing LeBron too hard for too long, and the results are showing up late in games when the team needs him most. But then another possibility started floating around. Maybe this is exactly what LeBron wants. That part made the conversation even more uncomfortable, because veteran superstars often fight hard to stay on the floor during historic moments. They want control of the game. They want to be part of every important possession. They want to shape the outcome personally, instead of watching from the bench while somebody else takes over. And if that is happening behind the scenes, then JJ Redick might be in a brutal position as a rookie head coach. Imagine trying to tell one of the most powerful players in basketball history to sit down for longer stretches during a playoff game. That is not an easy conversation for any coach, especially a first-year coach still establishing authority in the locker room. So the cycle continues. LeBron stays on the floor for heavy minutes. The body gets more fatigued. The fourth quarter production starts fading. The defensive transition slows down. The complaints to referees increase. Then fans notice the energy shift and start asking questions all over again. Kwame also touched on something that many fans believe, but very few NBA players are willing to openly discuss. He suggested there are probably current Lakers players who privately agree with a lot of these criticisms but would never dare say them publicly. And honestly, that part probably hit the hardest. Because in today's NBA, criticizing LeBron publicly can completely change how the basketball world treats you. Media coverage shifts instantly. Fans attack you online. Front offices notice everything. Future opportunities can suddenly become more complicated. Nobody wants to be labeled as the guy who went after LeBron James publicly. So most players stay quiet. They give safe interviews. They repeat the standard team answers. They smile during press conferences and avoid controversy completely.
The Lakers and what the Lakers got going on is 25-10 on free throws, and you got your ass whooped by what, 23, 25 points? So it ain't the referees. It's the coach. It's LeBron. It's the people on the team that's masquerading as leaders that's waiting to give up. I'm looking at the eyes and the body language of LeBron, and he's waiting for somebody else to take over the show, and then so he can be the hero at the end. I'm looking at the body language of JJ Redneck. He's looking for the players to save the day. He's not grabbing the bull by the horn. At least he played not Jake LaRabia. At least he played Luke Kennard for a second, but he still didn't give LeBron no rest. I'm watching defensive plays where LeBron will go down and hit a 3 on offense, come down, switch off a guard onto Chet Holmgren, a big, and then run from Chet Holmgren to go double the ball, and then Chet Holmgren end up getting a lob.
Meanwhile, former players like Kwame Brown can speak freely because they are no longer dependent on NBA relationships or league approval. That freedom is exactly why this rant exploded online so quickly. Kwame was not speaking like a broadcaster trying to protect access. He sounded like somebody who genuinely did not care about backlash anymore. And because of that, fans started paying closer attention to the actual basketball points he was making instead of instantly dismissing the criticism. The fourth quarter struggles are visible. The offensive rebounding numbers are visible. The slow defensive recovery possessions are visible. The heavy minute load is visible. None of those things are imaginary narratives. They are all things people can literally watch happen during games. That is why the bigger question hanging over the Lakers now feels impossible to ignore. Should this franchise still be building its future completely around LeBron James next season? Or is the reality of age finally starting to force a much harder conversation inside the organization? Now the conversation gets even bigger because this is no longer just about one rough playoff game or one emotional rant from Kwame Brown. This is about the future of the entire Lakers franchise and whether the organization is finally approaching the moment where it has to make a brutal basketball decision. LeBron James's contract is nearing its end, and for the first time in a long time, the Lakers are about to gain real financial flexibility. That changes everything. Because now the front office has to seriously ask itself whether continuing to build around a 41-year-old superstar still makes sense when the roster is clearly shifting toward a completely different era. And the biggest reason for that shift is Luka Doncic. And Luka is not just another star player passing through Los Angeles. Luka is the long-term centerpiece. Luka is the player the Lakers are expected to build the next decade around. When you trade for a player like that, priorities change instantly. Suddenly, every roster move, every contract, every coaching decision starts revolving around maximizing that player's timeline and play style. That is exactly why Kwame Brown's comments exploded online. Because once Luka entered the picture, a lot of fans quietly started wondering if LeBron still fits the direction this team is heading toward. The Lakers already have Austin Reeves continuing to improve into a serious contributor. They have younger pieces developing. They have future roster decisions coming. And most importantly, they have a massive salary slot tied to LeBron that could potentially be split into multiple rotational players who better fit Luka's style of basketball. Kwame's position on the situation was cold and direct. Respect LeBron for everything he accomplished. Appreciate the championship. Appreciate the historic moments, then move forward before emotion clouds basketball reality. He basically argued that the Lakers cannot allow legacy, media attention, or business pressure to force another expensive season built around accommodating a player whose body is clearly fighting the effects of 20-plus years in the league. And honestly, that is where this becomes extremely uncomfortable for LeBron supporters, because there is truth on both sides of the conversation. Nobody can erase the accomplishments. The longevity is unbelievable. The playoff records are unbelievable. The scoring totals, finals appearances, and statistical milestones are almost impossible to comprehend. But the same longevity argument people use to praise LeBron also comes with a difficult reality at the back end of a career. The body eventually changes. That is what Kwame kept hammering home throughout the rant. A player can still be legendary while no longer being capable of carrying games the same way they once did. Those two things can exist at the same time. And this postseason has given critics a lot of material to work with. The offensive rebounding numbers dropped hard, the transition defense questions became louder, the fourth quarter scoring issues became impossible to ignore in certain games. Fans started noticing the energy management inside possessions more and more. Kwame's argument was basically that this is the natural outcome of 23 seasons of mileage finally catching up in real time. Meanwhile, the Lakers also have another major issue to think about: Austin Reeves. Before this series, Reeves was playing some of the best basketball of his entire career. His confidence was growing. His offensive creation looked sharper. He started looking more comfortable handling huge possessions under pressure, and that creates a complicated situation moving forward. Because as long as LeBron dominates the late-game structure of the offense, Reeves remains the secondary option. That limits his ceiling. Kwame suggested the Lakers eventually need to decide whether they truly want to explore Reeves' full potential as a closer, or whether they are going to keep him locked into a supporting role while trying to preserve LeBron's place at the center of everything. Then everything circles back to Luka again, because Luka's preferred style changes the entire equation. Luka wants the ball constantly. Luka controls tempo. Luka thrives in high-usage offensive systems where everything flows through him possession after possession. That means the ideal second option next to Luka has to bring a very specific skill set. They need to thrive without the ball. They need to hit open threes consistently. They need to defend hard every possession. They need to crash the glass and bring non-stop energy even when they are not dominating the offense. Kwame basically argued that the current version of LeBron no longer checks enough of those boxes consistently enough to justify the massive contract attached to him. And whether people agree or disagree with that take, it definitely forced fans to start thinking about the Lakers differently. Because for years, every Lakers conversation started with one question: how do we maximize LeBron James? Now the conversation is slowly becoming something completely different. How do the Lakers maximize Luka Doncic for the next decade? That shift changes everything inside an organization. It changes roster construction, it changes coaching decisions, it changes financial priorities, and most importantly, it forces the franchise to think about the future instead of staying emotionally attached to the past. That is why Kwame Brown's rant spread so fast across basketball media. It was not just criticism. It felt like somebody finally saying out loud what many people inside the basketball world have probably been quietly wondering for a while now. Is the LeBron era in Los Angeles finally reaching the point where moving forward might make more sense than holding on? If you think Kwame said what a lot of fans have been scared to admit, hit the like button. If you think LeBron still deserves another run as the centerpiece, drop your take in the comments and stand on it. And subscribe for more NBA breakdowns, because these conversations are only getting louder from here.